Hello. Hello, beautiful friends. Happy Saturday. Just wanted to jump on because lots of things coming through. Like, I feel like this is going to be a very beautiful message in many different ways because it's still really intense for a lot of people right now, and I've really been tapping into that. So I just want to share some of the beautiful messages that are coming out of that for me that I really needed to hear, and perhaps others also really need to hear. Hi, Gina. It's funny, it says, oh, there it is. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me on your Saturdays. So I'm just going to jump right in. So, hi, Stinson. I'm just going to share again, like, everything that I've really been feeling. And this one, I feel like we're going to go deep because I actually tried making a video about this and for some reason it wouldn't upload. So, yeah. Hi, Bobin. Good to see you again. It's been a while. All right, let me try to stay focused here. Hello, everyone. Much love to all of you. Thank you for joining me. So lately, for me, I've noticed this is like really a time of cultivating wisdom. I feel like for so long, I have like all this knowledge, and I feel like there's a lot of people that maybe feel this way. It's like we have all this knowledge we've been cultivating, whether it's about healing, about multidimensional things, spiritual things, earthly things, creative things, like all of this knowledge, all of these knowings, and it's beautiful. But lately for me, I've been really having to cultivate wisdom, not just knowing, but understanding, having wisdom in cultivating the path, because even if you have all of this knowledge, if you don't have any wisdom on how to apply these things. Hi, Transco du jour. Thank you so much for the 999. Thank you. If you don't know how to apply these things in your life as you walk, all that knowledge can kind of go out the window. And a lot of wisdom is cultivated from actual experience, and actually living through these things and sometimes making mistakes. Anytime you're going on a journey, anytime you're being creative, you're always going to make mistakes. It's okay. I think so many are afraid of making mistakes, or we beat ourselves up so much. I'm going to talk about that today, for like feeling like our shortcomings, or why am I not doing this, or why am I doing this, all of these things that it's like so many of us are so programmed to torture ourselves, in one way or another, and I really want to kind of get to the bottom of that. But yeah, so that's just the first thing that comes to my mind is really cultivating wisdom, like really being present with the moment, and with really showing up with what you're going through, and also enjoying the mystery. Sometimes I think we forget. I know myself, I can be so focused on like making progress, and if you're out of balance, with that's one of the biggest things also arising is balance. Finding balance in your life. Because we have this urge, and this is all connected to the heart of what I'm going to get into. I'm going to get there in a moment. But having these aspirations, having these goals, having these dreams, having these higher places that we are trying to get to is beautiful. It is noble. I would say that is a noble thing. We're meant to evolve. That's why we're here. There's nothing wrong with that. It's, it's that drive. It's that will to power, And, if you're, hopefully if you're in your heart, it's, it's power so that you can assist yourself and assist others. But then at the same time, it's such a balance, because there's also the other side of being present and enjoying it, like really enjoying the mystery, enjoying what's arising, even if you don't understand it all the time. Because a lot of times to get to these aspirations, it's in the walk that we actually get all the required components and all the lessons and all the things that we need to get there, that again, our ego doesn't always understand. So I'm going to get into that because that's really the heart of what I want to talk about today. Because I'm trying to take something that is really complex and simplify it. You know, I think complexity is a huge shadow of our world. You know, everything is always so trying to complicate your life, trying to add more complexity, when really it's the mind that's so complex, and often reality is simple. You know, simplicity. Simplicity is one of the most noble truths, you know, truly living a simple life. So that's another, you know, side message to add to anyone who maybe needs to hear it, because that's something I've been also learning through my own wisdom. I've simplified my life many times, and this is yet another time where I'm like, really need to simplify my life. You know, I saw Sensen mentioned attachments, and exactly, you know, we get these attachments to all of these things, and eventually it just gets so exhausting. It just gets so draining when we think we need these things. And so, yeah, it's really, really good to simplify the complexities. I think there's something really so beautiful about being able to take all of these complexities that, you know, again, it's really in the realm of the mind where things are so complicated and convoluted, and being able to transmute them back into simplicity. So that's another really beautiful way. And when you're living more simple, it's a lot easier to balance things. You know, it's like we don't really need these super complicated, complex lives. At least for me, I know that's something that I don't want, but it often happens. You know, it's something that will just kind of happen because, again, the matrix, the world we live in, is very complicated. It's very complex. You know, so I think a beautiful thing is to simplify. You start to how can you simplify these things, you know, in your life and in your understanding. Okay, so let's get into the heart of what I want to share today. I don't know why, I just wanted to be kind of funny with the title and say, you shall not bypass. Obviously, that's just, you know, kind of a reference to Gandalf in The Lord of the Rings. You shall not pass. You shall not bypass. And, yeah, where to dive into this? As soon as I started this live, I just felt this, like, surge of energy. It's so weird how that happens. So I want to talk about the ego. That's really what I'm getting at here when I say you can't bypass. I think so often, okay, like let's just get into the topic of the ego, because the ego is really so, you know, the ego is often complex. And I think there's many of us, I know I'm just speaking from myself, something that I notice is trying to bypass the ego. And what I mean by that is, and again, this is really just my experience, because you know, this is something that I feel like I'm meant to be doing, you know, and for anyone who relates, is, I think a lot of what we're doing here for the, like, as far as like evolving is actually, I would say like a physical evolution. We're actually, because our spirits are already from such a higher place. And what I'm saying is, I think oftentimes, at least for me, it's almost a lot easier to just connect up to those higher planes and just be in that spiritual place, because it's so beautiful, it's so simple, it's so peaceful, it's so pleasurable, you know? But for me, I don't feel like that's just why I'm here. It's important to connect to that. But again, it's a balance, because why would we come to Earth if we only want to experience that? You know, many of us came here to assist humanity. And how do you assist humanity? Is through the process of the actual physical evolution. And I'm saying that as, because I say the ego is, in a way, it's a very physical part of us. You know, it's just a denser part of us. That's our personality. That's our, you know, our traumas, our fears, our survival part of us. You know, and it's, in this life, it's just as much a part of us as is our higher self. And as I've said before, we often, you know, we have many aspects of ourselves, but we really toggle in between this ego and, you know, the lower aspects of ourselves and the higher aspects of ourselves. But this is again coming back to balance. Is it's so important to, you know, be in harmony with these parts of yourself. So that's kind of what I want to share today, because it's actually the ego. This is just a message that came to me that I found to be really inspiring. Again, the ego is so often demonized, and we get so annoyed with our egos because it's that part of us that we feel is like always holding us back. And it's that part of us that we identify with when we're the victim, you know, or even perhaps the victimizer. But I think for most of us, it's probably, and I'm going to get into that too, this dynamic. I just feel like the call to speak upon a little bit this like dynamic of this duality between the what people call the narcissists and the other side, the codependents, the empaths. So I'm going to touch on that in a moment, because I've just been really, really pondering on that as well. But the thing is the ego is, in a way, it's such a key, because it's the key to your suffering and your salvation. Because anytime you're suffering, you can guarantee that it's the ego. Then you're identifying with the ego. And I'm not demonizing the ego. There's nothing wrong with it, because like I was saying in the beginning, we have to make mistakes. It's part of the creative process. It's like the fool, the archetype, the fool, you know, in the tarot. It's like, it doesn't mean you're stupid. It means you're beginning a journey, and you know, you have to learn. This is how you learn, you know, this is how you acquire wisdom. You know, so you don't have to just play it safe and never try anything. It's the beauty is the things you learn upon the journey. So anyways, because you have to learn these things, you have to understand these things, you know, to really, you know, acquire wisdom. So anytime you're suffering, again, you can guarantee it's the ego. And in a way, how beautiful is that? Like, because you can't bypass that. Your ego is like over here suffering for whatever reason. You know, your ego is over here not feeling good enough, or feeling angry, or feeling resentful, or feeling scarcity, or whatever it is our egos feel. And then how often, because this is going to be really good, you guys. This is a really good one. I really, really am grateful for this. But how often do we just want to evade that altogether because it feels so lousy, it feels so bad, that we just forget that. Like, I'm just going to go up here in the higher realms and just, avoid that mess. When really we came here to be in that mess. But it's so hard. It takes so much bravery to be in that fire, because it's so uncomfortable. Because you will feel all this shit come up, you know, whether it's yours, whether it's in your lineage, whether it's in the collective. A lot of it isn't even you. It's not your fault. But if it's arising, it's your responsibility. So stop beating yourself up. You know, we be so hard on ourselves. Oh, I have all these shortcomings. Why can't I do this? Why am I not doing this? Again, that victim role. But I just want to remind you, like, give yourself some credit, because this stuff is heavy. I feel it. You know, for me personally, and probably for everyone, I know everybody has a different path, but for me, I know that I'm here to transmute some heavy stuff. It's just part of why I'm here. I know that in my core. So this is when I want to get into the spiritual ego. The spiritual ego, something that I don't think we talk about enough, because there is an evolution happening. You can see it in real time. You know, I see it in humanity. There's an evolution happening, which again is the process of us starting to understand our egos, you know, starting to understand our triggers, our impulses, and working with it and doing that hard work, you know, because we have such a long history, you know. Again, just thinking about your lineage alone, these things that we carry, whether it's something you picked up psychologically from your parents, from their parents, and stuff that's really in our DNA. You know, that's a big reason of why we're here. And think about how many people in your lineage have actually sat down to do this work. You're probably the first one that you're aware of. You know, most of us are the very first ones. So give yourself some credit. You know, give yourself more just love and compassion and credit for what you're doing. You know, you don't have to beat yourself up for not being perfect, because it's like there really is no perfect here, in a way, you know. And it's a paradox, because you're already whole and complete, but you're always going to be evolving. You're always going to see the higher love, and that's the balance, is allowing yourself to have these aspirations, but not getting so sucked into them that you start to like not appreciate who you are now, because you are who you are now. All right. But the spiritual ego, I want to get into that as well, because it's so tricky. It's so twisted. And I think it's like where we are really getting into now is this territory of this spiritual ego. And so we want to sometimes avoid feeling these things, avoid this pain, in this suffering, by like clinging to, I don't know, like things in our mind, like attachments or abstract things, or even sometimes like trying to evade it. And to me, that is an example of what I'm talking about, of like this spiritual ego. And what, again, another way I'm speaking of the spiritual ego is like, do you ever just observe your mind? Like really, really observe your thoughts. This is a way that I try to handle things, especially if I'm going through something that is turbulent and unpleasant, is I really start to observe my thoughts, because that's the realm where things will get so chaotic. And if you're not observing and you just start identifying with your thoughts, even if you've gone past just the negative self-talk, if you're still identifying with your thoughts, there's a really beautiful quote from Alan Watts that he says, if you spend all your time thinking, you'll have nothing to think about but thoughts. And I just think that is really beautiful. It's really funny because it's true. If you just really, really observe your thoughts, because you might have spiritual thoughts. You might be having thoughts that you are feeling are spiritual, are energetic, but is it really your higher self? Is it really for your greatest and highest good? Or is it just these thoughts, again, like the spiritual ego, these judgments? Oh, I'm not doing this. Oh, this is why I'm doing that. It's so quick, you guys. The mind is so quick. So really observe those thoughts. If you're suffering, it's like that's one of the key things, is to observe those thoughts. So, yeah, just something that's been coming up for me, because it's so important to have that balance. And I feel like there's a lot of joy in that. And it's really simple. It really is simple. And allow yourselves to feel these things. One of the processes that I do, concerning this stuff, concerning when the ego arises. Because here's the thing, and I'm really just trying to shed some light on, something that I'm doing, something that really has assisted me, is to, again, this is just me, come into a relationship again with your ego, a conscious relationship. And again, it can be hard work, but it's definitely doable, but it takes practice. Coming into a relationship with your ego where you observe it and you recognize it, and instead of trying to avoid it, or fight it or hate it, or just like, because the thing is, if you don't observe it, you'll probably be absorbed into it and you'll just think it's you. You're like, why am I so anxious? Why am I so unfulfilled? Why am I so sad? Why am I so angry? Why am I so not enough? Why am I so unworthy? Or whatever the case is. If you just automatically start to identify that with that, or you can observe, come to a higher level. When you're observing yourself, it looks like you're looking down on yourself, because you're coming from a higher neutral place. You're not coming from the place of that fear, of that anxiety. You're coming from a higher place. And that's when you can really observe. And then that's when you can really actually differentiate in a way, kind of even separate in a way from this experience, just in a way consciously of saying, okay, that's that part of me. It's not me. It's not who I am. I'm not my unworthiness. I'm not these things. I'm not my fear. It's something I'm experiencing. It's something I'm working on. It's something I'm transmuting, which is, why I came here, to have these experiences, to learn, to, evolve this human avatar to assist all of humanity. And not only that, but it's a part of your, it's at this point, it's probably something that you actually arranged for yourself to learn the lesson, when you start to see it that way, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like that. So something you can do again is come into observing that again and again and again, and you notice it. It's like it's a part of being present, it's and there's nothing to be beating yourself up about, because you're human, and this is how we all are experiencing life. Nobody is perfect. Nobody is happy all the time. If you're happy, it's just like it just doesn't work like that. As far as I understand, it's like it's not just about being happy and manic all the time. It's about experiencing everything, but being able to be rooted in your unconditional love. That's true, mastery, in my opinion. That's true wisdom. But your human is going to be experiencing all these things because that's part of why we're here. It's part of the journey. So again, coming back to observing, because you'll feel it. If you're present, again, you'll feel, oh, I'm anxious. Or for me, I'm so sensitive. I'll notice even just a tinge. Like even if there's just a tinge of anxiety, even if there's just a tinge of doubt, I'll notice it. And I've learned, instead of identifying with it and going into that, the thoughts can be the hardest things because it's habitual thoughts. That's what beliefs are, habitual thoughts. Because again, as you continue to evolve and expand your consciousness and you break away these more dense layers, these things become more subtle. But then you realize they're still like overlaying on your reality. Again, whatever your stuff is, like maybe again it's doubt or unworthiness. Beginning to come to a higher perspective, observe it from that perspective, instead of identifying with it right away, which is what it wants. A lot of times that's how we feel because that's what we've been living in. We've been living in it. That's why it hurts too, because it's like, wow, I've been living in it. I've literally been unconsciously living in this state, throughout my life. It's okay. We all do this. This is part of being human. You don't have to beat yourself up about it and feel guilty about it. It is. So being able to observe it, and then that's when, I've talked about this many times, is starting a dialogue with it. For me, that's the easiest way, is to start a dialogue with it, Talk to that part of yourself that, for example, is anxious. It's like, what's wrong? Why are you anxious? Literally talk to it, and it'll talk right back to you. I've said this before. Your ego, this is why it's, again, the key to your salvation, because it will let you know exactly what's wrong. It will let you know exactly what's wrong. Just keep talking with it. Why are you anxious? I don't feel like I can do this. I don't feel good enough, And again, at that point, it's just a process of, communicating with these different parts of yourself, because your higher self can assist your ego, and that's why we're here. It's really multidimensional and abstract, but the more you do this, it's really not. This is more and more just like a daily thing. And again, this comes back to, what I'm saying is like, we're not just here to be up in the clouds and avoid the human experience. That's a bypassing I'm talking about. We're here to live it and to pick up this ego, this hurt part of ourselves, archaic hurt part of ourselves that is in our bodies. We're here to love it and assist it and pick it up time and time and time again. It's going to keep falling, and you're going to keep picking it up like you would a small child, with love, because you can do that, and that's the true evolution. Your spirit's already high consciousness, in this little body. It's not really your spirit that is, your spirit's always learning things and expanding as well, but it's in this human experience with what we're doing, it's actually your ego that's really, these lower parts of you that are really ascending, that are also really rising up. So it's again a matter of being so loving with it, and you don't have to identify with it. It is a part of you, but it's not you, so time and time again, oh, I'm feeling anxious, oh, I'm not feeling good enough, oh, why am I doing this wrong? Again, whatever it is for you, take a moment to observe it, observe what it is, and grab its hand and pick it up, give it a hug. I've talked about this before, it's not supposed to be the one controlling your life. That's part of like the huge trauma and manipulation that we've been in. But it is, that part of you that again, for me, like, that's a big part of why I'm here. And I know that, again, because I'm like to transform the darkness, to transform that materialism, that shadow, not to bypass it, not to avoid it, not to think it's bad. Oh, I'm going to avoid it because it's bad. Oh, I'm going to avoid it because it's dark. That's not why I'm here. I know that much. I'm here to actually transform it and work with it and bring it up with me, raise it up with me, because that's that healing work that will just make you feel so complete and whole in your present moment. That's the work that will help you to actually achieve the things that you're trying to achieve. Because all those doubts, all those fears, all those blocks, all these things that we think that we have is actually found here. It's in that ego, it's in that hurt part of ourselves. And it's a long time that we can kind of stay stuck just identifying with the ego and feeling so and restless or angry or desperate or whatever it is. Be honest with yourself. You got to be honest with yourself. Like, I'm going to get into that in a moment. You got to be honest with yourself with like these things. There's no evading it. We all have these things within us, and like, I'm not saying you have to go looking for it, because you don't. They'll really arise on their own. And when they arise, the moments when they arise, that's the moment when, I'm just learning again and again on a deeper level. It's not about running away from it. It's not about judging it. It's not about punishing ourselves about it. It's about, like, taking it, like, full on. Like, don't hide from it. Don't run from it. It's a part of you. It wouldn't be arising if you weren't able to transform it. And for me, the best way to transform it is, again, to observe it and to see it and to love it, to truly love it, like to truly nurture it, to see it as, the scared, wild child that it is, and love it, and bring it into your heart and get to the bottom of it. It'll tell you, once you start having these things, if you haven't already, it will tell you exactly why it feels unworthy, exactly why it's anxious. And know this, observation of it is enough. It might, because again, it's like we feel like everything has to be so complex, but it doesn't. Just let it be simple. Just let it be simple. It's simple. That's another way we take these complexities and we allow them to be simple. We take all these fragments, parts of ourselves, and we allow them to be unified. We're not separate. So that's really beautiful. Just something to be really, really aware of, because I definitely feel that it's going to be a big, it already kind of is, like a shadow, if you will, like within the spiritual community is the spiritual ego. And again, it's not something to judge yourself and people about. It's just something to learn from. It's something to observe. It's very fascinating. It really is, because it's like, how could I take all these old patterns my ego used to have, and somehow they can still arise within your own spirituality. That's how complicated it can be, but that's why we can simplify it, truly. Like, again, I'll say it again, simplicity is one of the most noble truths. It'll bring you so much peace, so much love, so much joy. It's okay to be simple. In fact, it's okay to even be bored, because within just allowing yourself to be bored, that's when some of the most beautiful creativity can arise. So one more thing I want to get into that's really, really interesting, as I mentioned earlier, is really greed. I want to talk about greed in a way that I've never really seen people talk about greed. So a lot of times when you think about greed, the first thing that comes to mind is, the most obvious thing would be, the elitists that have like so many resources and they try to hoard everything and keep everyone else down at their expense. I think that's the biggest shadow of greed that we all think about, when we think about greed. And that's true, that's insane. It is a thing that exists and it's insane. However, something that I've been pondering on and being shown is we can't just say that they're only responsible for that greed, because we're all human, we're all connected, all of us have pieces of this shadow. So, and thank you, Brett, and thank you, Olivia. I see you. I appreciate you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your generosity. Beautiful blessings to you and to all of you. But anyways, let's come back into what I was saying before I forget, before I get sidetracked again. So usually when we think about greed, we think, about what the example I just gave. And this is where it gets really interesting, though. And this is what I'm going to do a little side tangent into, because that example I gave is like the classic narcissistic energy. And I think we're at a point where we're very aware of like narcissists and like how they are and their tendencies. It's very blatant. It's pretty blatant. It's pretty obvious. It's people that will openly harm others, for at their expense, for whatever their agenda is. And ultimately, it's a coping mechanism that they learned through their trauma as a kid. That, I guess essentially like nobody cares about you, so you gotta like just do whatever. Nobody, I don't know. I'm not really sure. There's different. Again, it's really complex, but ultimately, it's like they don't care. They don't really have empathy. They're really just out for themselves, even if it involves hurting other people. Very easy to see, right? But what's crazy, we live in duality, so that's one side of the coin. But then on the other side of that same coin is, often what we call the empaths or the codependents. And I just want to bring out the point that this side is not as innocent as people think. And it's actually it's almost even more twisted, the way that these coping mechanisms work, of playing the victim. Because that's kind of what this dual shadow is it's the victimizer and the victim. And so much of humanity has been victimized, and so many of us, myself included, that's why I'm speaking on this, find ourselves more in like, I guess you'd say the codependent side of, being the empath, being the doormat, being, these things. And lately I'm learning like how, and this is why it's so important to be in the middle, and I'm just saying this with love, as a reminder, because again, I feel like most of humanity, a lot of us tend to fall on the codependent side, and it seems like it's safe, and it seems like it's innocent, and it seems like, oh, well, poor them, poor me. It's not. It's just as manipulative, and it is actually twisted. That's why it's so twisted, because it's really covert. So that's kind of relevant to what I want to talk about with greed. Okay, so I gave the example of the narcissistic side of greed, of, just blatant greed. That's what we think of when we think of greed. But then there's this other side of greed, again, maybe more you'd say the codependent side of greed, which is like the lack, the lack that so many of us experience, the scarcity. And again, there's no judgment. We all have these things. This is just something I've been seeing that I'm pointing out that hopefully will be helpful for people. So this one is interesting because it's that lack, it's that scarcity, but it actually is kind of rooted in greed, I've been learning. And for me, this has just been very humbling, because I just have like this whole perspective shift that I'm having. That's kind of, part of what I'm sharing, with coming back into the wisdom, cultivating wisdom. But so the interesting thing with the lack mentality, that again, it's like, it's not just about money, it's about, and it's so deep, it can be so deep within us, because we have, again, like so much trauma of not having enough, of not feeling good enough, of feeling cheated, feeling unworthy, not just in us, but again, like our history. But the reason it's kind of greedy, and I don't know why, for me, this is really helpful to understand, to start to come out of those habits, because that's why the codependent stuff is actually so sick and twisted, is because you can really stay there and feel like you're just being innocent and it's not your fault. But you really have to, rise out of that, because that is honestly just as manipulative to yourself and to others, because first of all, you have the narcissists that go out and hurt people and can be really cruel to people. But then the codependent, it's like, how cruel are you to yourself? You're not helping anyone. It's not noble to be so cruel to yourself and to hurt yourself and to torture yourself. It's not helping anyone. You know, it's like we have to find that middle path, truly. You know, do no harm but take no shit. You know, don't harm yourself, and you don't have to harm yourself, and you don't have to harm others, you know. But okay, going back to the greed thing, because the thing with the lack, the reason it actually is greed is because it's never enough. You know, I'm never good enough. It's never enough. I'm never satisfied. I'm never gonna, you know, it's like, it's a lack of worthiness, but you know, it's once you start to understand that, it's a lack of being able to see what you already have. You know, oftentimes it's even ingratitude, you know, and I say this with my love because it's like I've been there. There's no judgment. It's just something that, again, for me, I've been learning, like, how important it is to truly be grateful for what you have. You know, instead of just being like this hungry ghost that's constantly just wanting, but feeling like you never have enough, feeling like you're never good enough. Like, that's again why that covert, you know, that covert side of the codependent is so tricky, because it's like you feel like you're the victim, and you feel like, oh, I just never have enough, oh, I'm just never good enough. Whatever it is, you'll notice it. If you have like those tendencies, you'll notice it, how it's so like toxic in your life. You'll notice how every time you try to do something you care about or whatever, it's like you have that you know, whether it's like the thoughts or the feelings of, it's not enough, I'm not talented enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not I don't have enough money, I don't have enough this, I don't have enough that. And I just want to, again, I guess I just bring that up as just something to be aware of, because you can get really, really frustrated, because that's the energy of like desperation. And again, it's that energy of fear, because ultimately greed is fear. And it's just two sides of the same coin of like, oh, I don't have enough. It makes you so constricted. And then and what happens is you're actually like, you don't usually realize it, but you're disconnecting yourself from the universe. You're separating yourself from God. And the key to that, you know, in my opinion, it really does come down to just just coming into silence, you know, just coming in, just like letting go of everything for a moment and surrendering, and coming into, what am I grateful for? What do I have? I don't need anything. I don't need anything. I don't need anything. Literally, you don't need anything. You don't need anything. You don't. You really don't. Like, we have these attachments and we think we need this. It doesn't define your worth. Nothing here will ever define your worth. And you can try to, you know, use the external world to put band-aids on things, like, you know, if I just get this, I'll be happy. If I just have this much, I'll be happy. If I just, you won't. Even if you get those things, you won't, until you really come into your worthiness. I am enough. I have enough no matter what. And that's the real work. I'm not saying it's easy, but you can do it. Especially knowing is always half the battle. And I remind people of this all the time, including myself. You know, it's like, that's another way we'll beat ourselves up, because you'll open your third eye, and you'll see your shortcomings. Oh yeah, I'm unworthy. Oh yeah, I am being greedy. I am being needy. You know, isn't that just, I've talked about this before, isn't that just like such a like kind of like, I don't know, like it's like almost a cringy energy when you see it, is it not? Like that energy of like really, really greedy and really, really neediness and really, really desperate. It's kind of pathetic, right? But at the same time, like, how often, you know, can we find ourselves, and there's no judgment, again, it's like quoting the Lord of the Rings again, it's like that's kind of like, sometimes our ego can be like that Gollum creature. You know, we really can be like Gollum, like, oh, I need it, you know, I need it. Why shouldn't I have it? And again, it's never that you shouldn't, it's never that you're not worthy of having it. It's never that you don't deserve, you know, having more happiness, more wealth, more joy, more talent, more knowledge. It's never that you're not worthy of it. It's just the universe has this really funny way of not letting you bypass. And it's not even the universe, it's actually you. It's actually your higher self. And that's really the heart of what I'm trying to say, you know, for anyone who feels the intensity or is going through it. Because I feel it from all directions. I really, really do. And I know I'm not the only one. And it's really noisy, and it's really complex, and it's really chaotic. And it feels actually really like needy at the same time. Like, it's that ego that needs these things. You don't need anything. The more you let go of your needs, like not actual needs, but the more you let go of that didn't really come out right. But the more you let go of like your attachments, you know, the more you let go of just wanting, because that's what I mean about like this greed, you know, especially in the codependent side of greed, being lack and scarcity, is that you turn into this hungry ghost, which means you're just eating and eating and eating and eating, and you're never satisfied. You're just always hungry. You know, you're just always hungry because it's never enough. You're never enough. You never have enough. You're never good enough. And that's the paradox is, you know, you're always going to feel that way no matter what you have until you actually do that work of, you know, that real work of I am enough. I do have enough. It doesn't even matter what you have. And that, again, what I'm trying to say, and that's when everything will come to you. That's when you're going to be a magnet. That's literally how it works. You can't bypass it. It's like when you truly have embodied your worthiness, the more you start to do that, and I give you all love and credit because you've all done that. You know, it's an ongoing process. It's not just one and done. It's something we're continually evolving into, you know. So don't beat yourself up and think you haven't done anything. It's just, this is why we're here, you know. And that's part of what I'm saying too, is like remember the big picture. You know, we can get so laser focused on these little things, these little attachments, but remember the big picture. Remember why you're really here. You know, it's a lot bigger than just these little things that we think we want. And the thing is when you, because that's really the realm of abundance, is not being in neediness. You know, that's really the key. And, you know, not feeling so desperate, so hungry. And again, coming full circle back into what I was saying before, is it is a balance. You know, this is the biggest thing too. These things are so multidimensional. Is like, it's not wrong that you're experiencing that though. There's nothing wrong with you. You shouldn't feel bad for experiencing it because, again, you're human and you're on this journey. And we're all on this journey learning together. There's nobody that's so squeaky clean. You know, that's another thing that I see. I think this is a spiritual ego thing. When people get so caught up on trying to be like so perfect and squeaky clean and just like, need to heal this, need to heal this, need to heal this, need to purge, need to purge, need to purge, need to detox, need to heal, need to like... slow down. Like, slow down. Maybe you haven't manifested that thing you want. It's not because you're not doing something right, but because it's not divine timing yet. Divine timing is a real thing. And that's another thing that I wanted to say with the greed. Because it's not just greed with like money and resources. It's greed with time. And time is a huge thing. Because that's another thing with like the greed. Is like, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. I don't have time. I'm going to have to take this shortcut. I have to take this shortcut. I have to take this. Every time you try to take a shortcut, you're probably going to end up taking the long way because there's really no shortcuts. You can't bypass your spiritual mission, which is what the spiritual ego will try to do. You know, it's so strange. It's so strange how we do this. It's like we think that what we're going through is like the block, when what we're going through oftentimes actually is the work that we're supposed to be doing. And when we, instead of trying to avoid it because it's uncomfortable and unknown, when we just go into it, you know, and be brave, you know, and trust ourselves and do what I talked about earlier, being in a higher level of observation, that's when, like, that's when all the magic will start to come out for you. You know, that's because that's the thing to remember is like, God isn't going to ask you to do something that you can't do. So it's the walk you take to get there that's going to give you all the lessons, all the wisdom, all the knowledge, all the necessary components needed. There's actually a meme, and I think about this meme many times. It's like you're in Windows on the computer software, and it says task failed successfully. And I think about that a lot because it's so true. Every time, like, this happens time and time again. I will do something and I'll just fail. Or it could even be a disaster. It's just like, okay, I guess that wasn't meant for me, you know, whatever. And then, like, 2 months later, 1 month later, it's like that failure ended up being a exact thing that I needed to learn for my next success. And that's how everything is. And that's anyone who's ever invented something or discovered something, like, you can guarantee they've made many mistakes. You know, that's part of the creative process. So, you know, again, I'm just saying this to have more compassion and patience with yourself. There is time. You know, there is time. Time is one of the things that has enslaved us in the first place. The man-made construct of time. Like, time isn't even really real. So when we think to ourselves, and it's kind of greedy, you know, in a way, and again, no judgment, but just think about it, you know, just be honest with yourself. Because for me, when I realize it's greed, that's when I can really take a step back and be like, okay, like, I don't want to feed into the shadow of greed. As far as I know, I don't want to feed into the shadow of greed. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough this. I don't have enough that. It's never enough, you know, when you're in that state of consciousness. So I really encourage you to just let it be enough. Let yourself be enough now. It's so funny how we like torture ourselves. It's never enough. It's like, this is human life. You know, you're not going to be absolutely spotless all the time. You know, that's where we come from. And we do, like I said, it's a balance. It is noble to aspire to be higher. You know, that's like the ascension is to aspire to, you know, be more advanced, to be more evolved, to be more loving, to be more healed, and all these things. There's nothing wrong with that. But the thing is like that's that spiritual ego will get so obsessive for these things, and then it will end up turning this beautiful thing into a shadow. But again, it's all a necessary part of the experience, so it's okay. You know, it's just something that I'm putting out there, you know, that has been helpful to me. So, whew, that was a lot. That was a lot to get off of my heart. But I hope that hopefully it was helpful. Just to come back into again, like full circle is acquiring this wisdom, and I feel like it's such a beautiful time to slow down. You know, especially for me, I feel like being in like the northern part of the world in the seasons. You know, we're coming upon the winter solstice, and which is, you know, the darkest day of the year. So it's like, I don't know, for me, I feel so, every year I feel more in tune with the earth. Like, I don't know if it's like being a woman or like what, but I feel so, like I notice it. And again, I just share this because maybe you can notice it as well in your life. How things like, this is such a great opportunity to just slow down and rest. You know, you follow nature. Like, think about during the summer how everything is like this. Like, it's like everything is just thriving, everything is blossoming, everything is blooming, everything is like busy, you know, including us, including our minds, including our bodies. And like in this time, for me, I just really, really feel that slow down, that rest, that quiet. It's really, really nice, you know, just flow with that, you know, because for me, I really need that. I really need that silence sometimes. I really need that solitude. I really need that rest, that quiet. You know, just that's a big part of your rejuvenation. You know, this isn't, soon will come when it's time to plant the seeds, but it's like a message I got is like, now is the time to be the seed. Be the seed. And what do I mean by that? What are you trying to create in your world? Because now it's time to be that from the inside out. You know, be like, again, and when we have these aspirations of what we're trying to do, how we're trying to serve, how we're trying to create, what does that version of us look like? How would they behave? You know, and begin to come into that. You know, maybe they're more patient, maybe they're more trusting of themselves, maybe they're more confident, maybe they're more loving and satisfied. You know, and for some reason I just really feel that one a lot in myself, and I feel like in the collective a lot. It's that angst and that desperation. And again, I think a huge key to that is just allowing yourself to be okay with who you are now. Everything, 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 even the things you think are bad or shortcomings, just allow yourself to be okay with it. You know, because again, that's what I mean with like, I repeat myself, but I just think it's so important because I see this in myself and I see this in others. It's like being so obsessive with trying to fix ourselves. And that in itself is like, can turn into like some kind of like mania where you're like trying to like just constantly you're being so self-conscious is what I'm saying. You're actually being so like conscious of yourself that you forget like why you're even here. You know, nothing wrong with healing and doing these things. That's why we're here. But again, like, you just gotta have some mercy with yourself. You know, it's like we're human beings. You're not gonna be completely like spotless all the time. So that's okay. Enjoy the mystery. Enjoy the mystery. Is the mystery not one of the most beautiful reasons we're here? You know, to just enjoy the mystery. You know, why is this arising? Why am I experiencing this? Like, just enjoy it. You know, that's how life is. Enjoy the mystery. Enjoy the joy. Enjoy you know, why are we even here? Why is that even happening? Why does this even look like that? You know, just enjoy it. It's really, really beautiful. It's really, really profound. And again, last thing is just to remember when your ego arises, this is like a huge key. It's like notice it first of all instead of just identifying with it right away. Oh, I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. Or why am I like this? I'm anxious. I'm angry. I'm sad. You know, whatever it is. Come from the highest place that you can, the highest mountaintop of yourself, and look down on yourself and see and be like, that's, you know, I'm not going to go over it. I already went over it, so I won't, you know, again, repeat myself, but just remember it's not you, and start to communicate with that part of yourself. And if you're like me, that's going to be something you have to do every single day, because that's us pulling our ego up. You know, that's the part of us that's ascending. That's the part of us that's evolving, is that dense ego. You can't bypass it. You can't just leave it out in the cold. That's not why we're here. You know, we're not here to just go in the mountaintops and just forget about this, like, suffering aspect of ourselves. It's not going to just go away. It's literally why we're here. Okay, actually, now, last thing I'll say. Because this is relevant and this has been coming up so strong, and this is like a really, really beautiful message. Speaking of this, because, you know, I'm talking about why things are so heavy, and like I said earlier, it's not necessarily your fault, but it is your responsibility, because we came here, you know, we knew, again, most of us knew what we were getting into, and it's going to be so worth it. And we can do it. And this is the thing that makes it so beautiful alone, is like, for me, I've been really, really, really tapping into my ancestors. You know, our ancestors, everything they've been through, thousands, maybe even millions of years of experience. Collectively, it would certainly be millions, because we have thousands of ancestors. And like I said earlier, you know, you're probably the first or one of the first ones in your lineage to actually start to wake up and do this healing, you know, because this stuff, these fears, these traumas, it's bigger than you. That's why you got to stop beating yourself up so much. It's bigger than you. You know, it's like, this is old. This didn't just come out of nowhere. This is like old, ancient shadow that, again, you know, in this case, I'm talking about our lineage has been passed on, whether it was through, you know, the psychological habits that have been passed on, or through our DNA. It's literally within us, okay? But not only that, not only do you have that, you know, but you have all of the experience, all of the wisdom of your ancestors. Thousands and thousands and thousands of years of experience from them. How amazing is that? You know, and I really tap into this, especially recently. It's like, I really encourage you, you know, if you feel called, to tap into them, because they have so much love for you. And if you're here doing this work, you are a hero to them, and they love you and respect you so much. Truly, this has really been my experience. They're within you, but they, like, you know, it's like this experience where they can, like, this is just how I perceive it, project themselves around you. And it's like this whole huge, like, it's like a coliseum of people, you know, that are truly, you're a hero to them, because you are you are healing these things. And just feel their love for you. You are a voice for them. Many of them did not have a voice. They had to survive. What we're feeling is the result of what they actually had to go through. A lot of them, like, they didn't know if they would survive. They didn't know if they would have food or a home or resources. They, the wars, the strife, like the fear, so much. Like, so, again, that's like, but that's, it's not just the trauma, it's also all the beauty and all the love, and they've passed on. So they have a lot of wisdom, within them. Even if they, think they were the wisest people, they have those memories and those experiences, which is within you. So you are like a physical part of them that's just been carrying on for, again, who knows how long, thousands, millions of years. Your voice, even your physical voice, is an expression in a way of them. How beautiful is that? I just think that's truly so beautiful, to tap into that and to feel how much, a lot of times when I'm like making music, for example, like I feel them coming through me, like I feel them coming through their voice, and it brings me to tears. It gives me chills every time, because I just feel like they're so happy for me and what I'm doing. They're so like proud of me for being here and doing what I'm doing, and that's true for all of us. So if you ever need any reminders or motivations, tune into them, because they are with you. They are built into you, and they love you so much. That's part of what we're doing. We think that we're here to accomplish X, Y, and Z, and that is probably something we're meant to do, but let us not forget the real work. The real work, which is, again, just this ascension, this transmutation, this, taking these shadows, sometimes having to live them out. It's okay. That's how we embark upon this journey, and literally through us transmuting them into love, into wisdom, into knowledge. And if it wasn't for these dark experiences that we have, we wouldn't be able to help people. And we're all meant to be here. And ultimately, that's the most fulfilling thing we can do, is to serve others. And how are you going to serve people if you don't even know what they're going through? So just some reminders if you're feeling this intensity. I feel like this intensity is going to last, like, I don't know, I feel like in January things are going to get really, really light. That's just my, like, feeling. Not to try to make predictions or anything, but so just enjoy it. Just devour it. Just devour it. It's okay. It's really okay to enjoy the mystery. It's not just about feeling super high all the time. It's about, integrating it. Our spirit comes down to meet us, and the ego comes up to meet us, and it's all who we are. Okay, so thank you so much for listening, for being here, for being you. You are so loved. You are so beautiful. Truly, I am so grateful for all of you for being who you are, for being here, doing this work, because like I said, this work it's real work. It's like, that's why it's so important to have compassion for yourself, because it's all going to be worth it. Trust me, it's always so worth it. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, friends, and I will see you soon. All right, bye everyone. Thank you all. Thank you, Eternal Truth, by the way. Good to see you. I'm glad you made it. Hey Jim, Alasia. I don't know if I said that right. That sounds pretty loud. Alright, I love you all so much. Thank you, Inner Castle. Hey Richard. Can't leave without saying hi to everyone. Hi Joe. Transcode du jour, thank you so much. Alright. Hey Andy. Alright. Oh, that's such a pretty name, Alasia. I love that. Really pretty. Okay, I think I'm going to end it on that note. Okay. Bye everyone. Have a beautiful weekend. I'll see you soon.